everyone, and welcome to another episode of Motivation Suite, your dedicated source of all things motivation, inspiration, and mentorship. I'm your host, April Rogers, and I'm so excited and simply thrilled that you are tuning in today. As you may recall, in last week's episode, Motivation Suite had its very first special guest, my best friend Mia. And I'm so appreciative of her joining in with me on last week's episode and participating with me in a What's Your Personality Color quiz. We really had so much fun and learned some things about one another and had a funny twist at the end. So if you haven't had the chance to listen to last week's episode, I really hope you will take some time to do so, as it really was great fun. Also, if you had an opportunity to take a What's Your Personality Color quiz, please feel free to leave a comment. I would love to know if the color you thought your personality was initially turned out to be the same at the conclusion of your quiz. As Mia mentioned, this type of quiz would be a good team building exercise. And of course, I agree, as I think this quiz is a great icebreaker and using for results of sparking a conversation and recognizing and understanding others better. Now, I wanted to take a slight detour and have a freestyle chat with you about something that I have been thinking about as the season is changing from summer to fall. I would have to say that autumn is one of my favorite times of the year. The leaves start to change colors of so many different hues, such as corals, reds, yellows, and oranges, and the autumn air in most locations has a nice crisp feel. I love the way the fall season acts as a cozy blanket on a cool day. I also love the feeling of newness and rebirth that this season brings. Autumn, to me, represents a clean slate for ideas and new possibilities, which brings me back to what I have been thinking about and is something that I hope you will all be able to relate to. And maybe it will allow you to ponder what will be shared in today's episode for yourself. And what is it that has been on my mind, you ask? Well, it's seasons. That's it. Simply seasons. But maybe not in the way that you think. You see, as we go through our lives, we often move through challenges and happy times. However, let me ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself moving in autopilot, sometimes just wishing to get through to the next, then the next, and so on? As we all know, life comes with many opportunities and unfortunately a lot of challenges. But all challenges are not necessarily negative. I believe that some challenges are set for us to learn lessons and apply new ways and or ideas to what we may be going through in order to move in an intended manner. Do you ever sometimes wonder about those opportunities and when they seem to be more prevalent in your life? Do you ever sometimes notice when certain positives happen that they seem to happen around the same time each year? You know, for a long time, it appeared to me that certain months in the year tended to yield more of awareness of positive happenings. And interesting enough, it was a few years ago when I discovered this for myself. And it was quite eye-opening. And it did have me further intrigued. And I had subsequently had a conversation with an acquaintance, and they started sharing about this thing called seasons, which resulted in my eureka moment. You see, it was then that I had determined that the times in which the occurrence of my repetitive positive opportunities typically happened in what I now know as my season. You know, this is not unique to just me, as we all have our own seasons. It is often accompanied by the newness of our hard work and supportive efforts in something that we may have been working towards. It's the time when things tend to work out the most in our favor as a direct result of our commitment and dedication. You see, your season can also derive from your internal need to create and or pursue some type of goal and or achievement. Being in your season is quite gratifying and sometimes simply exhilarating when you are in the sparks of the beginning steps of your accomplishment. Seasons also work another way, as they can be motivated and or inspired by the unlocking of your potential when you have made the decision to create change. Typically, this would be a change you may already know you need to make, although it may be a decision that you may have had trouble executing for a number of reasons. However, it's a decision that deep down you know you need to make in order to see your greatest potential. Knowing when the time is right for you to make progressive change is typically inevitable. And instead of avoiding it, you really want to deal with that so you can get to the other side of what is meant to be. Honestly, harnessing the ability to recognize your season of change and or evolution doesn't always come easy. It takes alignment of faith and a greater understanding and awareness of self. Being in tune with your mind, body, and soul triggers you to know when your season is approaching and or when you maybe already be in that very season. Learning how to navigate your life in the direction of hope and change can sometimes be quite overwhelming of a task to achieve. However, we all have it in us, the beauty of intuition, whether we choose to use it or not. Although, if you choose to listen to that inner voice will says to you, it is time to move to the next chapter of professional and or personal growth, results in you being better aware of how to strategically progress with intention. Now, you see, by listening to our intuition, it opens us up to keying in on the moment when we need to take notice of the internal shift that is forthcoming. Additionally, with the process of recognizing the shift, the next step is being clear on how you strategically assess your next steps. Furthermore, the compelling aspect of knowing your season can stem from many different avenues. However, they generally develop from a need for change in life status, etc. So you may not always know what your end result will be, but if we are in tune with our mind, body, and spirit, the urge to move and walk in faith to the next stage will reveal itself to us in due time. Additionally, through self-reflection, we may ask ourselves how or when is the right time to take action. And I would have to say it is in the very moment you ask that very question. You see, when there is something we want to achieve, we will work at it. And if we are dedicated, focused, and feel a hunger for achieving our goals, it's also in that time that we should process taking inventory of what we wish to accomplish and get to the understanding of the elements we must do in order to accomplish the smaller building block task for attaining of that what we want and wish to prosper. Being in tune with learning about our season of action is quite empowering feeling, and it's something I hope all of us continue to experience and have the ability to connect with when working through and deciding when it is time for us to work through those change. I'm really glad that you were able to listen in on this episode. And I really do hope that it gave you a little more insight to a check-in with ourselves when it comes to breaking through the barrier of fear, when instinctively knowing when it is time to move forward to the next chapter of your personal and or professional growth. Because you see, we should never stop growing, learning, and doing. Therefore, I encourage you to never stop believing in yourself and listening to your intuition for a greater understanding and acknowledgement of working in your season. Well, everyone, I really do hope that you have found today's freestyle chat motivating and inspiring for actively learning about your own seasons of action and applying it for intentional forward movement to your prosperity. And as always, I would love for you to continue on this journey of exploration and become part of the Motivation Suite community by following and subscribing so you never miss a weekly episode, as well as sharing with this podcast with others, as I would love for them to be a part of the community as well. And with that, thank you again for listening, and I hope you continue to have a wonderfully productive rest of your week, and I look forward to you tuning in next week for our next installment of this journey. Take care.